say
35 farmers today to suicides in Himachal.
do you think there is a need of some agency except the National Crime Bureau which calculate this?
Okay, let me explain to you how this suicide numbers are calculated. The most authentic source is the National Crime Records Bureau, and even they, by the nature of our society, make huge underestimates in calculation. First of all, according to the Census of India, a farmer is anyone operating a plot of land for more than 183 days, 6 months in a year. That is a full-time farmer. In the census, that is referred to as cultivator main worker. Less than 6 months is referred to as cultivator marginal worker. That is the part-time farmer. If you must have a definition like that, because otherwise every corporate executive who goes to look after his private little orchard in the corner of Simla will be once in 1 month. He will also be a farmer. No? Listen, in Maharashtra, Amitabh Bachchan came with a piece of paper from Uttar Pradesh saying he's a farmer. He owns, because to buy farmland in Maharashtra, you have to show that you're a farmer. So he got himself registered as a farmer in Uttar Pradesh. Yeah, he wanted to buy land in the Mulshi Dam. That is the area where, that is the Adivasi area in Maharashtra. So if Amitabh Bachchan can be a farmer, so you need some definition. The census definition, I think, is broad and generous. It says 183 days, you're a full-time farmer because the bulk of your income, the bulk of you're basically dependent on this income. So you're a farmer, what we call a farmer, and in the numbers of the suicides, that is who we are referring to. Then there are agricultural laborers. Okay, and within agricultural laborers also there are main workers and there are marginal workers. Those who do for 106 months or more and those who do for less than 600 days. So what happens in the counting? The census may have its definition of the farmer. The police don't read the census. Okay, they have their own manual. More importantly, they have what DSP or SP told them. That is their manual. And their system is, when they go to the suicide hit household, they know farmer means पट्टा दिखाओ. अरे पट्टा नहीं है, ये लीज पे कर रहा है, बताए तो ये non-farmer suicide. So thousands of suicides by farmers are excluded because they are tenant farmers, because they are unable to prove that they are the farmer. Now, for instance, Dalits and Adivasis in this country, will they ever have a patta? Dalits and Adivasis are excluded massively from these lists because you will never allow them, this society will never allow them to have proper patta and recognition. It will not allow it. Show me how many Dalits have a solid patta. It's very difficult. I mean, that's why they are Dalits, right? That's why they are downtrodden and oppressed, and that's what we do to them as a society. In the case of the Adivasis, we take away what land was theirs for 1,000 years also. So that is one group that is not going to be counted in a serious way. Maybe there will be 2 here, 5 there, because Adivasis in Vidarbha own large pieces of land, not productive land, but they own them land. One. The biggest exclusion, the biggest group excluded from counting of suicides is women. Which woman has the patta in her name? So women farmers are largely excluded from any count. उनके नाम कहाँ है पट्टा पे? Only in 1 or 2 states, like in West Bengal a few years ago, they made it a law 10 years ago, that in land distributed by government, the patta has to be joint patta. It has to have both husband and wife's name. That sort of thing started. It's there in a few states, but observed more in breach than in practice. So another way, so Now women farmers, by the way, please understand that 60 to 67% of work in agriculture in this country is done by the women. But they will not be counted as farmers, they are farmers' wife. Maharashtra, the Secretary of Agriculture, Commissioner of Agriculture in Maharashtra created multiple new categories to reduce the numbers of suicides. One column is farmers, next column is farmers' relatives. I said, why don't you put farmers, friends and neighbors? Also, wo bhi karo. Okay. Now, because the NCRB figures were so bad, state government started creating their own figures. Now, who creates the figures? Please know this. Please know this for your question. State government figures, there are two kinds of figures. One is the figure that the CM will say on the floor of assembly because his secretary rang up someone else and said, kya kahe, kya kahu, and that fellow will say, 32, 32. But the more serious figure of state governments will be very small because those numbers are counted not by police but by revenue department. Revenue department is counting the numbers with a view to compensation. So what you read in your newspapers, those are all revenue department figures. So there may be 500 suicides, revenue department will say 32 because otherwise they will have to pay compensation to 500 families. They are not, you think they're going to do that? They need to give that money to Tata, Ambani and Birla. They're not going to give that money. No? They are not going to give that money to Hukumchand in Kankador, in Kankredi. In Kankredi, they're not going to give it to him. They're going to give it to someone who's building a resort. That's why the agricultural credit is going.
If we were to add these non-farmers suicides to this 3 lakh figure, how high would this actual...
Your guess is as good as mine. Because it falls into many categories. I said women are the biggest exclusion. By the way, I'll tell you another problem that comes up. In Andhra, in Maharashtra, see, by the way, one of the largest and most vulnerable groups in the country for suicide is adolescent and young women, mostly in rural India. Adolescent and young women. Now in Andhra and Maharashtra, I've documented several cases, even in Kerala, where a young woman, a young girl, high school topper in her tehsil, has to drop out of school because the agrarian crisis has hit her family so badly that she has to go back and work on the field. This is India. If there are 2 children in the college, one boy, one girl, who has to drop out? The girl will drop out. That girl kills herself. She kills herself. I have documented these cases. She kills herself and it will be registered as student suicide. What do? I mean, it's a genuine problem. We don't have a solution to that problem. It's going to be registered as she was a student. They're not going to, police are not going to say she is a dropout, she was made to drop out and therefore she committed. They're going to say student committed suicide, student category mein likho. So they will ask for the part. Like this, there are many groups. Let me tell you about how the prejudice against women operates. Your neighboring state of Punjab, for instance. If we go by government or NCRB figures, Punjab and Haryana are the best states to be women farmers. There are 0 women farmer suicides because they've never accepted a woman as a farmer. Many years, 7 years, Punjab and Haryana show 0 in women. But you know what you can do? Look at the column of general suicides of women. That is growing by huge numbers. But you and I cannot pick out who was the farmer and who was not the farmer. So that's difficult. So all these figures you have to understand and decode. It's called media literacy and government literacy. We have to understand what these guys are doing. Now, the NCRB also does some very silly things. They make some, I only want to know from the NCRB, all I want from them is the numbers. Please don't give me the Sarkari analysis and breakup. Now when farmers commit suicide, you also know it. Your politicians have made statements. My politicians in Maharashtra have made statements. First response of official and elite is to say nothing, silence. Then when it gets very severe, They will say there have been 1 or 2 suicide cases, but the matter has been dealt with. We have. Third is to say, there have been some suicides, but it was due to a bad weather season, bad monsoon, crop failure. Farmers have lived with bad monsoons, crop failures for thousands of years. They didn't every time commit suicide. Maybe 1 or 2, but not on this scale. Fourth sector will come. Government will say, and the media will report, high rise in alcoholism. All these farmers are all drunkards. That's why, okay. A leading journalist of Vidarbha told me this when they were felicitating me for that Max Essay Award. The man is from Vidarbha. And I'll tell you what he said, I'll tell you what I said. He said, Mr. Sainath, we know all about these suicides. Actually, he didn't know a damn thing. But anyway, we know all about these suicides. We are all in Vidarbha. Is it not a fact that these fellows, you see the respectful language, these fellows are committing suicide because they're all drunkards, they're all alcoholics, excessive consumption of alcohol, they commit suicide. This is a very widespread argument. My reply to it was, my dear fellow professional, if excessive consumption of alcohol is the cause of suicides, there would be no journalists left in the world. And very few academics. And no human rights activists. Okay? So yes, alcoholism is a problem. It is one of those factors involved. But please understand how when recording is done, it's called, what I have invented a term for it, recording of the last cause. A farmer exists. His name is, Abhilash Rawat. He is a marginal small farmer. He is a small farmer, 1 acre, 1.5 acres, my marginal fellow. He is having all the problems that I described. His price has fallen, cotton price has gone down, or vanilla price has gone down.